Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Andrew. Just so you know, I'm filming one intro and using it for all of these questions. So if you've seen the intro before or just want to skip to the philosophical questions and thought exercises, I'm going to timestamp each video so that you can jump around if you so choose. Those will be in the description, and that way you can save 2 minutes of your life for each of these videos you watch. And as always, I just want to say that I respect your beliefs when it comes to religion, and I believe you should be allowed to have those beliefs. I don't lose respect no matter what you believe. You can believe in one God, many gods, all the gods, or no gods, and my respect does not change for you. The only time I have a problem is if someone decides they should dictate how I should live my life because they are better than me, because they believe whatever it is they believe. And so I must believe it too. Now, I will say that I did mean it this way the whole time. However, I may not have articulated this properly. That can mean religious or non-religious people dictating what I have to believe because they believe it. And I have unfortunately experienced both from multiple people. And to those people, I would just say, respect others' beliefs as you wish yours be respected. That's really how we should just go about it. Now, I'm not trying to change your mind with any of these philosophical points and thought experiments. I am just putting them out there into the ether, and you may think about them or not. That's up to you. Totally up to you. I do think that it is always good to try and think about things from other perspectives. And, who knows, maybe 1, 2, or all of these can help people do that if they're open to trying. And these are just things I've been randomly thinking about, some of them for months, some of them for years, some of them for decades. I'm aware some of these are going to be crazy, out there ideas that you're going to immediately, on principle alone, reject. Just wait about the one about heaven and hell. That being said, try to see these from both sides and see if you can make an argument for each. At the end of the day, they're just thought experiments. I'm not trying to trick you with anything or convince you of anything. The way I see it, these are just mental puzzles for our brains. If you choose not to participate in thinking about these, no problem. That's your choice. If you do, the worst you will have done is potentially challenge some of your preconceived notions, and more than likely not, concluded that you were probably right all along in the end. Either way, you exercise your mind, and I believe that is the one part of the body everyone should be exercising daily, and it is also the one part of the body that, unfortunately, a large portion of our population tends to neglect. Alright, so question 4. This one is an interesting one, at least to me. And I'm going to make a couple different points when it comes to this one. So, buckle up. Try not to take things personally. It's not an attack on you. It's not meant to be an attack on you. Just meant for you to think about some things, So, okay, here we go. Let's say you're a Christian. You believe in God. And you cease to be. You expire. You move on, you cast off your earthly shackles, however you want to say it without saying it. And so you ascend, you get to heaven, and God is waiting for you, except when you look at God, you realize that it doesn't look like God. Instead, you're met by a red-headed guy with a buzz cut and an impeccable beard. Let's see, what can we call this amazing guy? Oh, well, we'll just call him Andrew, let's say. Uh-oh, my ego is growing. Last video I was a dictator of my own country, and now I'm God. Yeah. If you knew anything about me, you knew that, I could never actually believe anything ridiculous like that. But there you go. And by the way, I just use myself in these examples so that I don't, it's not like I don't want anyone to think that I'm, poking at what they believe or anything like that. I'm just kind of using me so that no one else... well, I'm sure people will get offended by it anyway, because anyone can get offended by anything, but... I'm just trying to take it so that one religion can't be oh, see, he used us, So I'm creating my own religion here, but just for this example. So you get to what seems to be heaven, and you meet a god whose name is Andrew, and he tells you that he is the one true God, and he's the only God that ever existed, and asks you why you didn't worship him. He says all you had to do was believe in me, and you could have had peace everlasting in heaven, but instead you're going to be sent to hell because only true believers are allowed in heaven. Is this fair? Do you think that's a fair thing? Would you argue with him as to why you should be allowed, or would you just accept your fate, being wrong about the one true God? So I'll let you think about that for a second. Okay, time out. I have an important question here. Instead of thinking about the question that I asked you, were you just thinking something along the lines of, well, that whole thing is ridiculous, Andrew isn't the true God, my God is, so of course I'll be let in, what is he talking about? Yeah, don't worry, most people do, no matter what name their God has. Just remember, one God is right and the 999 others are wrong. So, because the book about your God says so, and because the structured religion that only works because God has to be God says so, your God is right. Now, who knows? They could be right. I don't know. I'm not saying I know whether they're right or wrong. But their reasons for saying it might be a little suspect. I will say that, but maybe that's just me in my opinion. But let's get back to this idea, okay? So let's say you're wrong. I know it's hard to think, how could I be wrong? But let's try to take the ego out of these questions. Let's say you're wrong and you get up and it's a God, not yours, that is the right one. Would it be fair then for them to reject you to hell because you do not believe in them? Or would you try to convince them that you should still be let in, or would you just accept your fate? Okay, so I'm going to go into my thoughts. As always, I will have the timestamps for all of this, so you can, if you want to pause the video and think about it more, you can. If you want to leave and come back later, you can. If you just want to go right and jump around, you can do that too. So I will give you my thoughts. So the reason I ask this to people who are religious is that I think it can help people empathize with others. Not a lot of people actually do this, I don't think, especially not anymore. But I still unfortunately have had times where people have told me that I'm going to hell because I don't believe in a God with the same name as their God. And actually, yeah, that's usually the main reason, is the difference in name, in my opinion. But maybe, but if we actually think about this logically and statistically, there have been approximately 1,000 gods since the start of people believing in different religions. You believe in one of those gods. That means that you have a 0.1% chance at actually being right about yours is the real God. But you are so convinced yours is the real God that everyone else is wrong. Statistically speaking, maybe not. Who knows? And obviously that doesn't even get into the fact, this is assuming that there is a God. I mean, that in and of itself is in my opinion a very large assumption, but for this exercise I'm going to assume that there is one. But I think there's something even deeper here, and I think it's important to mention this, right? if hell is such a horrible place that you wouldn't want to send anyone, why are you in such need to, throw it in people's faces and tell them, well, you're going to go to hell because you don't believe in my God? If that's such a horrible, evil place. And for people who do this type of thing, I know that sometimes they claim that it's because, they're trying to save you, that they're telling you this. And I'm sure in some cases that's true, but there's also a significant portion that are just holding it over your head and almost like gloating. But either way, let me ask this question. What if your child believed in a different religion? Would you be saying the same thing to them? So let's say you came to me and said, well, you don't believe in God, so you're going to go to hell. Okay. What if you had a child? Imagine if your child told you that they believed in a different religion from you. Are you going to tell them that they're going to hell because they don't believe in your God? Or are you going to hope that you're wrong about that whole thing? Just saying. Now, I will also point this out, and I've had a conversation about this with a lot of people too. So, let's say you're a good person and you try to do as good as possible, right? And God doesn't let you into heaven because you got his name wrong. Maybe you thought God was Allah or a different God, Vishnu, or whatever other God. But you got the name wrong. You followed the wrong religion, or maybe you thought he just didn't exist. If God doesn't let you in and you're still a good person for that, isn't that just God being petty on a level that seems way more human than it would be divine? Because that's basically what these people are saying. Well, because God gave you the choice and you chose something else, he's going to be petty and you don't get into heaven. I know that's my way of seeing it. I'm sure you guys might have different ones. But again, try to take our egos out of it, and let's just look at this for what it is. So what exactly do I believe when it comes to this? Well, I mean, theoretically, if there is a God and they are like this, I'm in trouble, because although I accept the possibility of a God existing, I also think that it's just as likely that none exist. So I've never really had one as part of my daily life. If I die and meet a God at the pearly gates, or St. Peter, if it turns out that the Christian's way of thinking is right, I would make one point, and then whatever happened after that happens, basically. So I would say something along the lines of, although I am not, nor ever have been perfect, I have always tried to do good in my life, whether that be by helping others in need, doing good things for strangers with no want of praise or compensation for my actions, or improving myself to be wiser and kinder so as to be able to be a positive energy for good. I thought there may be a God, and it may even be God, but I never truly believed one way or the other. That being said, is it better for a person to believe in God but be a bad person and only repent at the end of life for fear of retribution, or be a person such as myself who never believed but always tried to do as much good as possible each and every day? Which would you rather fill heaven? If it's the first, so be it, but if that is the answer, I don't think I would want to be there anyway, and that would be that. In my opinion, and that is my opinion when it comes to heaven. I think, although in the Christian tradition it's less about being good, getting into heaven, and more about believing in God and repenting and following Jesus and his teachings. I think personally, I think you should have to be good to actually get in. So what do I actually believe about the afterlife? Well, personally, I believe it could be one of two things, and I've had both of these ideas, and I have no idea which is right. and I won't know until it's my time. Fair, and no one really does. The first is pretty obvious, and I think it's the most likely, really. I think that when this life ends. The curtain falls and everything fades to black, and there's nothing after it. I think that is the most likely scenario. There doesn't need to be an afterlife. Like, this is our life. Afterlife means death, nothing. But there is a second possibility that I also entertain, and this one's kind of interesting. So I think if there is an afterlife, I think your soul, or more correctly, your energy somehow can exist outside your body. Maybe as you're going to wherever it is you go in the afterlife, you pass through some type of energy barrier. And maybe depending on the quote-unquote energy, aka the good or evil you did within your life, it sends you to different places or different directions. So let's say you pass the energy barrier, and you get your way into what the Christians would call heaven. I think personally, whatever religion you have will dictate how you perceive the afterlife. So if you're Christian, you will see heaven. But I believe it's the same place for all people. So if you have a different religion, whatever your idea of the afterlife would be is probably what you see. And the reason I believe this is because I don't think that humans or human energy could possibly understand or grasp the complexity needed to fully comprehend something like an afterlife in heaven. So I think their experience on Earth is going to fill the gaps so that their mind, even though you don't have a physical mind, isn't completely blown away by something like the afterlife. So although everyone will see it slightly differently based on their own beliefs, I do believe that good people will all go to the same place. And I don't really care what you call that. Some people might call that heaven. Other people will call it different things. Does the name really matter? Some people say yes. Does the name of God really matter? Again, some people say yes. I also have an interesting theory that for the most part, if a God exists, it could be the same God in basically every religion, and then people just call them different things and then assume different things, because whether you agree with this point or not, religion is man-made. It could be influenced by some sort of God, but if God gives you an idea of what the religion is, how are you going to understand his or her thinking? And as such, you would kind of have to fill the gaps with what you know. And because we're human, we're not perfect, and so that's how you can get the differences. So that's my theory on it anyway. You might have a different one. But just something interesting to think about, right? You always, I mean, we as humans are very ego driven. Almost, I think, to a fault, really. But we very rarely ever think, hey, what if I'm wrong? And this is a big one to think, hey, what if I'm wrong on? So, maybe just shed some light on it in your own life. Maybe just think about it and see what you come up with. And if you say, well, I've thought about it and I still think I'm right, but it was an interesting thought. It was an interesting thought experiment. Perfect. That's all I'm asking for. So I hope you enjoyed this one. I'll see you in the next one.